Hey crew, it's Pitt and I am back with some more freedom. Today we are going to be energetically investing into our union by reading aloud from the Constitution of the United States of America. I don't know how far we will make it in. We will see how it goes with time, but we are just going to read along and see what is actually written in this paperwork that I have on multiple occasions sworn to protect and defend. So, with no further ado, let us dive into the Constitution of the United States of America. The Preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This is mostly self-evident, right? It is to us to establish justice. That is something that maybe needed to be reestablished these days because justice seems to be very, very far away from our republic indeed. To ensure domestic tranquility is to prevent insurrections and mass occupations of colleges across the country, violent demonstrations that burn down cities. You have the right to peacefully protest in any manner in which you choose, but you do not get to infringe upon other people's rights in order to do so. That is an important thing to remember. To promote the general welfare and to provide for the common defense is to keep us safe from foreign invasion and from our domestic enemies, and to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Your posterity is your kids and your grandkids. It is to the legacy that you leave behind that you are responsible for ensuring freedom is continued in the manner in which it was given to you. Article 1. Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years, and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative, and until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. The House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the 2nd class at the expiration of the 4th year, and of the 3rd class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. and if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make a temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote, unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their other officers, and also a President pro tempore, in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of President of the United States. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Judgments in case of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as the places of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members, in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may, in their judgment, require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services, to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it, with his objections to that house in which he shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal, and proceed to reconsider it. If, after such reconsideration, 2/3 of the House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. But in all such cases the votes of both houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered into the journal of each house respectively. If any bills shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and the House of Representatives may be necessary, except on the question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or, being disproved by him, shall be repassed by two-thirds of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, import, post, and exercises, and to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on the credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states, and with the Indian tribes, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States, to establish post offices and post roads, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries, to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water, to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be longer for a longer term than 2 years, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by cessation of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers invested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid, unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept of any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver a coin, a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any impost or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. And the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports and exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in any time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. And so ends Article 1. And this is the basic foundations of how the legislature and the Senate is supposed to act. I don't necessarily agree with the ages anymore. I think that it probably should be increased. To sit in Congress, you should probably have to be at least 30, and to sit in the Senate, you should probably have to be at least 40. And I would go as far as to say probably 45 or 50 to be the President of the United States. The areas of responsibility have changed greatly in the last 250 years. At the time of this writing, most of the people who were involved in our political upheaval, the American Revolution, the thing that gave us this, the people who sat down and wrote this, most of them were young. But they had been men for years, right? They were 18 years old and had been men for 5 years. Because back then, at the age of 13 to 15, you were expected to be doing the things that a man was expected to be doing. You were supposed to be working. You were supposed to be starting your family. Today, we would call it pedophilia. But back then, people got married at 13 because the average life expectancy was under 60. We have extended our lives, but we have slowed down our responsibilities to such a degree that, honestly, most 18-year-olds are not equipped for life in any way, shape, or form. They have zero concept of how to adult. That is a failure on the part of us as free peoples, right? And when I say us, I'm not talking about me. Both my kids are good. But I take me as part of the whole. And we have failed. Most of the people who have attained the age of 30 still have only yet begun to learn about life. By the time you are 40, you actually have somewhat of a decent grip on it. By the time you are 50, you have a better grip. I'm not quite 50, I'm over 40, and I can speak with a little bit of experience. The things that I thought I understood at 20 years old, I had no clue about. The things that I thought I knew at 30, I still really didn't have much of a clue about. It is only now, through express dedication, that I am learning the things that should have been taught to us. So that is my reasoning for wanting to increase it. It is not idle, right? Some of these things have been changed. We have amendments. We will get to those. Some of these things have been abolished. We have amendments. We will get to those. But they all had their reasoning. We went through the reasoning in excruciating detail. I did the entirety of the Federalist Papers, which was the founders arguing for the document. It was trying to give us the reasons why we should, in fact, accept governance under the Constitution. I'm not going to expound upon them points because we hit them so heavily before, but for the most part, the system has worked for 250 years. We've had a few hiccups. We have had several bumps along the road. I mean, the outlawing of alcohol for every single person is a little bit excessive. It's well beyond the bounds of what's contained in here, but somehow we allowed it to happen for a few years before we decided to change that. It should be only under extreme duress that we even seek to go in and change these things. When I talk about the ages, I'm not asking for it to happen. I just think it would be smart, right? I'm not saying that we need a constitutional convention so that we can change the dates and names or the ages. I think it would be smart to not vote for a 25-year-old to be your congressman. I think that would be incredibly intelligent. All right. Now we're going to deal with Article 2. Article 2. The executive power shall be invested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years and, together with the Vice President chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors, equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom at least shall not be of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit, sealed, to the seat of government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all of the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such a number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for President. And if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the said House shall in like manner choose the President. But in choosing the President, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from one state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of President, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the Vice President. But if there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the Vice President. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. We'll get back to that. No person, except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution, shall be eligible to the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. In the case of the removal of the President from office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the Vice President, and the Congress may, by law, provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the President and Vice President, declaring what officers shall then act as President, and such officers shall act accordingly, until the disability be removed, or a President shall be elected. The President shall at stated times receive for his services compensation, which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected. And he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. When called into the actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion, in writing, of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of the respective offices, and he shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all the other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may, by law, vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. He shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union, and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses, or either of them, and, in cases of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care of the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for, and conviction of, treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. And so ends Article 2, and this is outlining the duties and responsibilities and the choosing of the President. The Electoral College is something that we need to pay particular attention to. You are not allowed to vote as a non-citizen. That is true for now. In most places, there are places where they are trying to change that, and that is an abomination which goes against the very Constitution and should be handled as such. But we have a bigger problem. The bigger problem is the census. The census is every 10 years, and it is by the census that we receive our electors, right? It is what determines the number of Senate seats, or not Senate seats, Senate's too, but it tells us how many congressmen that you get to have, right? Each state is different and is based upon the population, and that is a good thing. But it should be strictly held only to the citizens of the United States. You have the rights that God gave you, and they are protected here in this country. It doesn't matter where you're born. If you are here, your rights are protected. You can have free speech. You can bear arms. But you don't get to vote. You don't get any say whatsoever in the legislative or lawmaking procedures. You don't. It has zero bearing on your life. You are here by the courtesy and goodwill of the citizens of the United States of America, and you should not in any way, shape, or form be counted in the census. If you are unable to provide for yourself and you are not a citizen of this country, no provision should be made for you. There should be no outreach. There should be no services for those who are not citizens of this country. Now, if you are endeavoring to become a citizen, that puts you in a special class, right? You still have all the rights. Everybody's got the rights, but you don't get to vote. You do not get to take part in our electoral process. The apportionment of senators or legislatures is by far the greatest threat to our security that we are currently facing. It is not a president who may or may not be elected. It is the people who are being counted for that election. As of right now, people who are not here legally are counted in our census and are counted towards the legislative count. We have time to change that before the next census, but we have to change that before the next census because there have been a significant influx of people over the last 3 years. Immigration has waxed and waned over the years, but this last 3 years have been particularly egregious. There have been astronomical numbers of people crossing the borders, and almost none of them have freedom in mind. Almost none of them are fully invested in our Republican system of government. Almost none of them give a shit about our laws. That is a problem. And they are being counted and will be counted in our election, even if they don't vote, because they are citizens, not even citizens, but because they are counted in the electoral count in the census. Despite the fact that they are not citizens, they get extra congressmen. And the extra congressmen are going to vote in ways that may or may not agree with America. If you don't believe that, look at Senator Rashida Tlaib. There's a problem. We, as citizens, need to be sure of who we are supporting, who we are electing. We have a current sitting president who has no value for our Constitution. Article 3. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges both of the Supreme and inferior courts shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation, which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, the treaties made, or which shall be made, under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, and those in which a state shall be a party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all the other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to the law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as Congress shall make. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be trial by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crime shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places that Congress may by law have directed. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have the power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture, except during the life of the person attainted. And so ends Article 3, and that is giving us the bounds of the Supreme Court. There's not a whole lot here to really take exception to. It has been expounded upon in the Federalist Papers quite sufficiently. The separations of the state powers of persecution and the federal powers of persecution and how they are to be different. The things that are given to the power of the Supreme Court to judge is between states, right? Because how do you pick the venue if there is not a neutral arbiter? One of them will be prejudiced, and if you are in the prejudiced state, then you are at a disadvantage. So we have a court for that. We have a court for dealing with federal things and things outside of the bounds of the state, but most of the power is retained to the states exclusively. Article 4. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state of the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. And the Congress may, by general laws, prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved, and the effect thereof. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime, who shall flee from justice and be found in another state, shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up, to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. No person held to service or labor in one state, under the laws thereof escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. New states may be admitted by the Congress to this Union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of two or more states, or parts of states, without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned, as well as of the Congress. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. The United States shall form guarantee to every state in this Union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and, on application of the legislature or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence. And so ends Article 4. And here we have outlined the things that we are supposed to do, right? You are not allowed to flee justice. If you do flee justice and you are caught in the other state, then you are to be given back. Not if, not at the discretion of, but you are. If you are in the states and you flee justice, you are to be returned to the state from which you fled. The most important part of this, like in my estimation, is Section 4, the last part we read. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, not a democratic one, not a democracy, not imperialism, not monarchism, not theism. Republican. Republican means the individual states acting independently and sovereignly in concert with one another for the goal of. Our goal here is freedom, truth, justice, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Those things are our core values. That is what our Republican government is to ensure for us. Corruption of our Republican government by any means to turn it into a democracy is anti-constitutional and should be treated as treason, with all the penalties therein attached. Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or, on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state, without its consent, shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. This is an easy, like a short one, right? This is 2/3 of the Congress shall approve amendments. Like, in order to have amendments, then you have to to convene, you have to decide, and it has to be an overwhelming majority, right? 2/3 is overwhelming, 3/4 is overwhelming. Most people have to agree on the amendment. I haven't done the deep dive in history to see exactly what happened when they outlawed alcohol, but I think it was just some squeaky wheels, considering the fact that most of the country just did not pay attention. Right? Things that are antithetical to freedom and liberty should never be ratified, and you should never allow it to be ratified. We should never have an amendment to change the fundamental freedoms that we are part of, what we enjoy. That was the word I was looking for. We should always ensure that freedom is our highest standard. You should be able to do almost anything that you want to do. You should have the freedom to do anything that does not infringe upon someone else's freedom or person. Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. This again is another simple one, right? You can't create a new government just to discharge your debts. There were people arguing for that. You should check out the Federalist Papers. But the debts that are incurred should be paid. Absolutely. Everything should apply to everybody equally. Absolutely. That's what this is saying. And then finally it says that no religious test shall ever be put in place. There are people out there who will not vote for somebody of an opposing religion. I personally find that silly because of my Bible study, but you're welcome to do personally what you want to do. But you cannot ever establish that this man cannot hold the office because he is Hindu. Or this man is a Catholic, so we Protestants shouldn't vote for him. That is not the intention of what we do. We have freedom of religion for a reason. Religion is a very, very personal choice that you don't have to explain to anyone. You can. You're freely welcome to do so, but you should not have to. You should never have to explain to somebody what your religion says, regardless of whether they think it's detestable or not. There are several religions out there that I personally find abhorrent, but I'm not going to tell you that you can't do it. Right? I'm going to tell you that I don't agree with it if you ask me. Otherwise, I'm not going to associate with you. I'm not going to not vote for you because of your religion, but I might, depending on what that religion stands for. Article 7, this one's really small, but this is where we're going to wrap it up. So, the ratification of the conventions of the 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of the Constitution between the states, so ratifying the same. And this is where we're going to wrap it up because there's not a whole lot of this, right? At the time, 9 states was 3/4 of the Union, so they were just codifying that. We talked about that in the Federalist Papers. I'm energetically investing in our Union. That is what this is. I don't expect many people to watch this. I really don't. I'm thankful for every single one of you who do. There are people that do. And I'm thankful for you because you also are energetically investing in our Union. I believe that speaking these things aloud is speaking it into existence, that by reinforcing the things which have founded this country, that maybe we can pull it back together. I see the effects happening, not as fast as I would like, but hopefully it is making somewhat of a difference. I know that's a little bit too woo-woo for some people, but that's okay. I'm okay with woo-woo. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion. This is mostly just reading it, right? There's not a whole lot of my exposition necessary. I'm giving it anyway, but it's not really necessary. These things have been discussed in great detail. They were fought over. People took years to decide that this Constitution would work. It took a lot of argument and a lot of compromise to get us what we got. Was it perfect? No. Is it ever going to be perfect? Probably not. Are we ever seeking perfection? Yes. We are ever seeking to increase the number of people enfolded by freedom. We started here by making an experiment of making free men actually free. Because you weren't prior to this Constitution. You had to ask permission to move. You had to ask permission to start a business or to do a job or any of these things. And now we have a great experiment in freedom. And it only works if we all participate. If we all are informed. If we all make the effort to understand our principles and why we have them. We will come back on another day and do the amendments because we're going to try and keep these kind of short so they're digestible and maybe a little bit interesting. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt State. Peace.